In this video, I'm going to be explaining fractions and how you can show them on number lines. I'm going to do a quick review real quick and once again relate it back to pizzas just because I find it easiest and I don't know, I like pizza and I know you guys love your pizza. So let's say that we had a pizza and it was broken into, oh, that's a little rough, broken into 8 pieces. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you ate maybe, let's say, 3 pieces. 1, 2, 3. If we wanted to make the fraction for that, our numerator is the amount of pieces that were eaten, so that's 3. And our denominator is the total amount of pieces that the pizza had, which is 8. 3/8. So that's how we can draw and represent that fraction. But what if it was a number line? Because you can still show a fraction basically the same way on a number line. So I'm just going to draw a line. And just like this pizza, it's broken into 8 slices, a number line is going to be broken into 8 pieces. But it's going to start at 0 and end at 1. 0 would be like none of the pieces were eaten, and 1 would be all of the pieces were eaten, or 8 out of 8 pieces, the whole pizza. Whereas this one would be 0 out of 8 pieces, none of the pizza. So I'm going to divide this into 8 pieces. Since it's an even number, I'm going to start, just break it in half, and then put 4 pieces on each side. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And when you do fractions on a number line, it's easiest, in my opinion, to count the spaces. It's like we have 1 space, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So you can count the spaces as the fractions, or you can count the lines. But the only thing about counting the lines is you don't start counting on this one, because remember this one is 0. Well, that's a really bad arrow. So we have 0, and then you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if you're counting the lines, just make sure that you remember the very first one is 0. And if you're counting the spaces, just make sure that you know the number goes at the right side of the space. So if we wanted to show 3/8 as well, all you would do after you had it broken into your 8 pieces, you would just do this. On the third dot, you just mark it like that, because that is on the third one out of 8 total. So if I were to label all these, and I'll do it in a different color so you can see it better, the first one would be 1/8, we have 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8, and 8/8. So it's basically the same thing, 3/8 of the pizza and then 3/8 of the number line. You just make sure that you have it broken into equal pieces, because remember that's a big part of fractions. The pieces have to be equal or it does not work. So let's say we had a different fraction. We'll make this one easier. Let's say we had 2/4 of something. So I'm going to draw as a circle, and then I will show you the number line as well. So in this case, we'll have our circle, and it's broken into 4 pieces. I'm getting that from my denominator. So I'm going to break this into 4 pieces that are equal. And then I color in 2 of them. So half of it. 2/4 represented like this will be shown that way. As a number line, we have 0 and 1. We're going to break it into 4 pieces, like that. And if I wanted to count the spaces, I could. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I wanted to label the lines, which might be better to know where to mark your fractions. Remember, I don't start on this one because that is 0. I go 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4. And if I were to mark 2/4 on this, I would just look for 2/4, which is our second one, and color it in like that. So some of the problems on your worksheet are set up like this, where you have a number line already drawn and then there's some letters. And you have to figure out what the fraction is that goes with each letter. The way you do that is, well, first let me make a spot so I can put what each one means. Okay. First things first, we want to figure out what our denominator is, and to do that, you're just going to count the spaces or the lines. If you count the lines, remember, do not count the first one. So if I were to count the spaces, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that means that all of my fractions are going to be out of 6 pieces, which means this one, my one that equals to 1 will be 6/6, and the first one will be 0/6, or 0 pieces out of 6 total. Now, once we know that, we can go through and fill in the rest of the spaces. So our first spot right here is going to be 1 piece out of 6 total, 1/6. Then we have 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, and 5/6. Now you just go through and match each one. So our letter A is 2/6. B is 3/6, and C is 5/6. In some of them, you're going to have something that looks like this. Your number line is there, letters are there, but for some reason it goes to a different number instead of 1. And that is totally okay. I'm going to explain what that means. Basically, instead of having 1 pizza, there are 2 whole pizzas, but they're both cut into equal pieces. So you're going to go about this the exact same way. However, to get your denominator, you're just going to look at how many pieces there are to get to 1. In this case, we had, let me get a different color. We had 1, 2, 3 spaces. So all of our fractions are going to have a denominator of 3. So that means the very first one is 0/3. 0 pieces out of 3. Which means at the 1, it should be 3 pieces out of 3, and that adds up. If you eat 3 pieces out of 3 total, you eat 1 whole thing. So before I explain how to get what letter B is, we're going to fill in to get A. So if this one is 0/3, the next one, the very first one, will be 1/3. Then this one's 2/3, and then we have 3/3 already in. So our letter A is equal to 2/3. I'm going to erase some of this just so it's a little easier to see. So if you ate this whole pizza and then continued on, our next fractions are going to work the same way, because if we go from here to here, there's still 1, 2, 3 pieces, so they're going to be out of thirds. However, we just have to add the 1 whole one onto it. So this right here isn't 1/3, it's 1 whole one and 1/3, like that. And the next one is 1 whole one, 2/3. So 2, you can say it's 2, or you can say it's 1 whole one and 3/3, because if we think about it, 3/3 is equal to 1. So this is just like having 1 and 1. And if you put 1 and 1 together, you get 2. So we can say that letter B equals 1 and 1/3. Now another way you can think about it is you can take what you have up here, your 3/3, and just keep adding onto it. So we can go one more jump as long as it's all on the same number line like this one. We can go one more jump and say that our next one would actually be 4/3 like that. And then the next one after that would be 5/3. And then this one would be 6/3. I'm going to draw you a picture in just a second to help understand what that means. But if we look at what B is, it can be 1 and 1/3 or 4/3. So if we have these two pizzas and they're exactly the same size pieces, same size pizza, we can use them to represent the fraction that is shown, or the letter B, what that represents. And I think this picture will help you better understand what I mean when I say 1 and 1/3 and 4/3 are equal to the same thing. We need to take a look at it one picture at a time. So if we look at this first one right here, it's broken into 3 pieces. 1, 2, 3. So our fractions that represent this pizza are going to be in thirds. And same with this one, the second one. It's the same situation. Now if we were to eat this whole pizza, the whole first one, we would have eaten 3 pieces out of 3 total, or 3/3. So let's say you did that, and you were still a little hungry, so you had one more piece of the second one, or 1/3. If we combine these two, or not combine them, but if we look at how many pieces were eaten, we're going to get the same answer. Watch. On this pizza, we had 1, 2, 3/3, but we had one more third, so we had 4 pieces, but the pieces were broken into thirds. 4/3, 4/3. Or we can think about it this way. You ate this whole pizza, so you had one whole pizza plus 1/3 of the second one. 1 and 1/3, 1 and 1/3. So that's why letter B can be shown as 1 and 1/3 or 4/3. Because depending on how you are interpreting the picture, you might see it a different way, but they are actually the same answer. It's just like if I said I had 2/4 of my candy bar and you said I had 1/2 of the candy bar. It means the exact same thing because 2/4 is equal to 1/2. 1 and 1/3 is equal to 4/3. While you're doing the problems that have more than one whole, I recommend, if it's confusing you, break it down into pictures first and see if that helps you. If not, you can always ask me for help and then I can send you a little more details on how to get through that part or how to represent it. But basically just remember that fractions can be shown on number lines just like they can be shown in pictures as long as the pieces are equal. If your fraction is bigger than 1 or 1 whole, it might look like this, or it might look like this. If your numerator is bigger than your denominator, that means your fraction is bigger than 1 whole.